Dispatcher looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Elana.
Water towers can fly!
Tango Delta nominal.
Fighting outside SC off. Bring in SC off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome everybody. You are looking live at Launch Vehicle 0008 on the pad in Cape Canaveral, Florida at Space Launch Complex 46. Astra is just under 60 minutes away from conducting a launch for NASA to deploy 4 CubeSat payloads into low Earth orbit on the NASA Elana 41 mission. This is the third launch attempt for Astra and Astra's first mission from Cape Canaveral. We are coming to you live today both from Cape Canaveral, Florida and Astra's headquarters in Alameda, California. My name is Thomas Burkhardt. I'm the news director for NASA Spaceflight, and I'm joined by Carolina Grossman, Director of Product Management at Astra. Carolina, thank you for joining me once again today.
Thanks for having me again, Thomas.
Always a pleasure. We will be bringing you this live coverage of today's mission as we have previously. Astra and NASA Spaceflight are once again partnering to bring this livecast to you, so thank you to Astra for partnering with us to make that happen. And also, as usual, we will be taking your questions throughout the course of the broadcast. So if you have a question about today's mission, please tag us with @NASA Spaceflight in the chat. We're going to be bringing those in through Michael's nifty software, and we'll be asking as many of those as we can throughout the course of the broadcast. Right now, we're at T-minus 57 minutes and counting, so Carolina, let's start off with a status update. What are the teams working on as we proceed towards liftoff?
Sure, Thomas. As you can see, that middle third of the rocket is nice frosty white as propellant load is ongoing onto the vehicle, and all things are looking nominal. And you can see it's also a beautiful day in Cape Canaveral. We are not tracking any weather issues at this time, so we are going to proceed through our countdown with a T0 time in 56 minutes and 30 seconds.
The Space Launch Delta 45 and the 45th Weather Squadron predicted a greater than 90% chance of favorable weather today, and as you can see on your screen, that has definitely played out. Crystal clear skies, hoping for some amazing visuals from today's launch. Liftoff is also on track for the opening of today's window, which is 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, which is again just about 56 minutes from now. And this mission is the first from Cape Canaveral for Astra. It's launching from Space Launch Complex 46, which is on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On board this rocket are also the first satellites which Astra aims to deploy after a successful orbital launch. Those 4 payloads are part of NASA's Elana program, the Educational Launch of Nanosatellites program. The mission is designated Elana 41, also designated the VCLS Demo 2 mission for the Venture Class Launch Services program, which aims to provide dedicated launch services for small satellites like these CubeSats. 3 of the CubeSats are provided by different universities, the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, New Mexico State University, as well as California, Berkeley. And then the 4th payload is direct from the NASA Johnson Space Center. All 3 U-sized CubeSats on board. Those are the payloads on board Astra's first mission to deploy payloads into orbit, like I said. And as Carolina mentioned, no weather or technical issues right now. The countdown is proceeding. Over the course of the broadcast, we'll also keep you updated how that countdown is proceeding with any updates as needed. This mission does build off of the first successful orbital launch from Astra, which was the LV-0007 test flight out of Kodiak Island, Alaska. And let's take a look at a quick recap, which shows how Astra got to today.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1, 0. First motion. First motion. Vehicle is clear of the tower.
Ether confirms good startup.
Seco.
And Astra's LV-0007 has successfully reached orbit. There is a new orbital rocket. And we are now going to welcome a special guest to today's live coverage. Hemant Charazia is a Vice President of Product Management at Astra. Hemant, thank you so much for joining the live broadcast today.
Thanks so much, Thomas. It's great to be here.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about what you do at Astra and how you contribute to the team. So your role is Vice President of Product Management at Astra. What are your responsibilities in that role?
Yeah, great question. So I'm part of the product management team at Astra, and you've met Carolina Grossman, one of the stars of our team. Overall, the product management team is really all about answering the question of what is the right thing for Astra to build next. And that's based on understanding what the market is deeply, understanding what our customers need, and understanding what we can build. You can imagine that that's a very cross-functional activity, but fundamentally it's about charting that course forward and creating a few different things. One would be our North Star vision for the products that we're building and the roadmap of releases that in step-by-step get us there towards that North Star vision.
You mentioned this being sort of a cross, a cross kind of capability where you have to work with other people. Do you work closely with the engineering and operations teams when you're developing these new products?
Yeah, absolutely. Engineering and operations are two very, very critical elements of the company to engage with in answering these questions, but also so many others. I think of program management, I think of production, sales, mission management, finance, regulatory, spaceports. So many. There's a long list of internal and external stakeholders that every one of them has an important piece of the puzzle in understanding what is the right thing to build next that makes the most progress towards our vision for Astra.
Well, when aiming to grow your teams in order to pursue that Astra's kind of overall overarching goal as a company, what kind of skill sets and backgrounds are you looking for to join the product management team to achieve those goals?
Yeah, great question. And we're actually hiring very aggressively right now, looking to dramatically grow the product management team this year and as we expand the scope of what we're building at Astra. So your question is a good one. I think there are a few key skills that we really look for. I would highlight four. The first one is customer obsession. We were really looking for people who are obsessed with understanding who the customers are and what their problems are and how we can help solve those problems. And then bring those insights to the rest of the team as part of our product development process. Second thing I would highlight is it's important to have a combination of technical fluency and business thinking. So product managers in this process, as you can tell, are really a bridge between the business side of Astra and the technical side of Astra. And so it's important to be able to work and speak equally well with both. Third one is ability to learn fast. You can see on the pad today, our launch system, our most celebrated product at Astra, is really the first of its kind. There are no other container shippable rockets, and what we're doing is a first in so many different ways. So everybody in the product team really has to be able to learn fast about new technologies, new markets, new types of businesses. And then the last thing I would say is ability to bring people together, ability to convene, to influence, to really align a broad cross-functional team around a vision for the product, a thing we're trying to do in the world, and then to ship that, to work together to bring that into reality. And so these four key skills are intrinsics we look for, and we have great people in our team right now. In terms of backgrounds, I would say that product managers in aerospace are a bit of a rare breed. It's not really a traditional role. So there isn't any cookie cutter formula for background. Certainly, people who have had product management experience at other companies that build mixed hardware and software products, they will have had an opportunity to build many of these intrinsic skills we're talking about. So that's a great background. But also, it doesn't have to be that. And also, it doesn't have to be any particular industry. At Astra today, we already have a very diverse range of backgrounds at Astra. People have come from automotive, from big tech, from aerospace, from all sorts of different industries, and we hugely value that. It's really an important part of the magic at Astra about building something that's fundamentally different as a new future for the space industry.
And so that team, which comes from all of those different diverse backgrounds and experiences, is all coming into Astra to achieve Astra's or aim towards Astra's long-term goal of improving life on Earth and from space. How does today's mission, the LV0008 mission, and your work in the product management team work towards achieving that goal?
Yeah, great question. And I love this question. It can never be asked too many times. I think big picture, a really important step in improving life on Earth from space is to develop the scientific understanding and the scalable technologies that we'll need to build something really useful in space, the next generation of space-based services. That's really what I see as the theme of today's mission in a few different ways. And the 4 satellites that we're launching today from 3 awesome university teams and NASA's Johnson Space Center. The way I look at it, the 4 satellites we're launching today advance 2 broad goals. The first one is to help scale up our use of space, and the second is to do that more sustainably. So on the first theme, this scaling up, the first one I'll highlight is the R5S1 mission from NASA Johnson Space Center. They're really demonstrating a faster and cheaper way to build CubeSats, and simultaneously testing out new ways to get better data on how satellites are operating on orbit. This is very useful diagnostic information for scaling things up. The second payload that fits in this sort of theme of scaling up is the CubeSat mission, with a Q, from the University of California, Berkeley. And they're testing out a new kind of quantum gyroscope. A gyroscope is a critical element of every satellite on orbit that helps the satellite understand where it's pointed and where it is. And making these, this quantum gyroscope is one potential path to smaller, lighter, and cheaper gyroscopes. That's another way to scale things up in space. Overall, these 2 give us new ways to make cheaper and more scaled satellites. On that second theme, though, on sustainability, I would say that the first one, the BAMA 1 mission from the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, will test a new drag sail, which is a bit like, you can think of it like a parachute in space. Now, to really improve life on Earth from space, we need to be able to safely operate thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit. And an important part of that is to be able to very reliably bring satellites down when they've either failed or otherwise reached the end of their life. A drag sail is one promising solution to that problem, part of the suite of solutions. And the BAMA 1 mission is taking a really important next step in the development of this technology. The final payload I'll highlight is the Inca mission from the New Mexico State University Las Cruces. They're using a neutron spectrometer to take a new kind of measurement of space weather, to better understand space weather and predict it. Now, maybe many people in our audience don't think about space weather every day. What this really is to recognize that our sun is a dynamic and powerful force that's constantly emitting a stream of high-energy particles towards the Earth. And that bombardment of the Earth creates a space version of weather that satellites need to fly through and operate in. Turns out that it's really important for satellites to account for this and for us to understand what they need to be designed for in terms of space weather. Just this week, for example, in the news, we saw a large number of satellites lost on orbit purely due to the impact of space weather. So what the Inca mission is doing is really on an important topic to understand and better predict space weather. I'd say as sort of a backdrop to all of this, there's something a bit here for Astra, which is the launch today is Astra's next step in expanding access to space. Why do we care about that? Well, this is exciting for us because easier access to space means more great student teams and researchers flight testing new technologies on orbit. It means more entrepreneurs building valuable space services on orbit. And it means more governments and institutions building systems that benefit everybody in the world from space. And I think from my own days as a student at MIT, I've seen firsthand how awesome the innovations can be driven by a team of students and researchers at a university lab. And but historically, it hasn't been very easy to get those things into space, to flight test them. And so that's why, for me, it's such a huge honor today to be watching us give an opportunity to fly payloads in space from these great student and researcher teams. And so I'm very excited to see them fly and to see Astra take its next step in expanding access to space.
Absolutely. Heyman, thank you so much for joining us. I've loved hearing all that insight into both today's mission and your role in the product management team. So thank you so much for taking some questions with us and hanging out.
Thanks so much, Thomas.
All right, let's go ahead and listen into activity on the countdown net as the countdown proceeds at T-minus 43 minutes and counting.
Okay, per step 105, Tango and AV1 manage polling. Please toggle do both ground and guidance polling mode.
Toggling do both ground and guidance polling.
And Tango, I'd like you to re-enable pump battery charging by going into machine pump battery 2, manage pump batteries, and setting mode 3, reset machine.
Toggling 3, reset machine.
And then mode 1, charge pump batteries.
Toggling 1, charge pump batteries.
So we just listened in on some countdown steps being proceeded. Again, everything on track right now. We're at just under 42 minutes and counting for today's launch. Again, targeted for 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Like we said, we want to take some questions from chat over the course of today's broadcast. So again, if you've got questions, tag us with @NASA Spaceflight, and we're going to be bringing a couple of those in, and we got a few of them here now. Keith is asking about the last launch that Astra conducted, the LV0007 mission. What was the goal and achieved objectives of that mission, Carolina?
Yes, so the LV0007 launch in November, we saw the video of it just a few minutes ago if you joined us at the beginning of the broadcast. That was our attempt to reach orbit. We have constantly been working towards that milestone, and LV0007 successfully reached orbit with a test payload on board. And so that test payload on board LV0007 was not deployed. So today's mission, LV0008, represents a few firsts, one of them being that this is the first Astra mission with payloads that we will deploy into space, as you just heard a lot about these exciting CubeSats and the scientific investigations that they will conduct. And it's also our first launch out of Cape Canaveral. So it's a couple of historic firsts for Astra with today's launch, and we are very excited to see how it goes.
And a related question, Arda is asking if Astra can launch payloads into polar or retrograde orbits, and I believe that ties in directly with the launch site that's being used for any particular mission, right?
Right. So if you have been following us for a while, we have launched our previous rockets out of Kodiak, Alaska, the Pacific Spaceport Complex, Alaska, and that location, which is a very high latitude, is great for reaching high inclination orbits, including polar and SSO. So yes, we can reach polar orbits, and technically those retrograde would be flying, launching against the direction of Earth's rotation. So there's nothing really to prevent us from doing that either. But we're focused on the objectives that our customers want to achieve, and a lot of that is driven by our launch location. So while our Kodiak launch site has been great at helping us reach high inclination orbits, this launch site in Cape Canaveral is really wonderful for reaching mid-inclination orbits, which are particularly important for things like communication and weather observation, where you can get more coverage over the middle portion of the globe.
Another launch site question here from Matt. Could Rocket 3 launch from a boat at sea?
That's a very interesting question. I'll talk a little bit more about our approach to our launch infrastructure. So everything that you see in front of you here can be shipped inside a shipping container. And so no launches at sea at this time, but it does make it very easy for us to set up and deploy a launch site. And even the rocket itself is 43 feet from tip to tail, so that fits inside a 45-foot shipping container, a bit snugly, but it is one of the key differences about Astra.